everybody. Welcome back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I'm Kate Kennedy, your host. I've decided that if I want to make it in this town, I've got to make a change. I was looking for neutral territory podcast-wise for a long car ride with my husband, like something we could both listen to. And I haven't perused the podcast charts in a while. And wow, every podcast that charts is like about self-improvement. It's all about like leveling up, or, you know, how to reclaim your life in 2025, how to get your dream career in 6 months, how to manifest your dream XYZ. It's all just like how to do the next thing, the best thing, how to achieve big T's and tiny arms in 21 days. I don't know. That's my Google search history. In all seriousness, though, if you do have a large chest and tiny arms, small frame, what's it like to be God's favorite? I don't know how it works without load-bearing shoulders, but God bless. Did you guys see, I'm thinking about this because Kylie Jenner answered a TikTok that was asking for details about her boob job, and she very specifically gave the CCs, the doctor. I have no idea what half under the muscle means, but I do know that Lindsay Arnold shared that hers was over the muscle. It's a little bit funny because she is so responsible for so much of the beauty trends, the lip filler trend, body trends. I mean, really, she drove a lot of beauty culture from a young age. Remember, kids were like sticking their mouths in like shot glasses or jars or something and going to ERs from suctioning them to try to make their pouts pert, to use Daily Mail terms. It was crazy. Even I bought one of those weird suction contraptions to make my lips bigger. It's tough out here having bird lips. And then I saw Chris comment, the plastic surgeon did a post being like, you know, in 21 years, we've never had a privacy breach. Like, our biggest priority is patient confidentiality. And then Chris commented on it being like, you did my facelift 11 years ago, shout out. And I'm like, what's going on with the Kardashians and their sudden desire to tell us everything? I mean, remember when Kim did a butt x-ray to show she didn't have a butt implant, but the reason it wouldn't show up on an x-ray is like probably because she did like a fat transfer or something. Anyway, it's definitely interesting. She lied through her teeth that we couldn't see because her lips were so big about her not having lip filler for the longest time. But I also, sometimes I don't even like really blame her for that because she was a minor. And it almost is sad to me she had lip filler as a minor and then like felt pressured to tell everybody as a minor. You know, it's like, I don't know. But like I'm here for people evolving. If she wants to share now, great. She honestly looks so beautiful. But lest we forget that Kylie Cosmetics is the billion-dollar brand built on a low transparency situation where lip kits were sold around the world because based on the premise that lip kits are what made her lips look like that because she overlined them and then put the matte lipstick on them, but actually she had filler the whole time. Also, it wasn't a billion-dollar situation. Okay, this drives me nuts about headlines regarding acquisitions. This happened recently with Rhode, Hailey Bieber's brand. When I talked about this in an episode a very long time ago, but media headlines about brand acquisitions do like no due dil, just to like lightly explain stipulations and not mislead people about the cash element of like a deal. And calling Kylie Jenner a billionaire when Cody acquired Kylie Cosmetics, or calling Hailey Bieber a billionaire with e.l.f. Cosmetics, like, it's not like far off, but it's also just not true. Because, okay, Kylie got $600 million in cash immediately. Yes, that's a lot of money, but it isn't $1 billion. The difference is, I don't know, you could buy Taylor Swift's whole catalog. It's more than the GDP of several small countries. You know, like, it's not $1 billion. Actually, Hailey got $600 million in cash too. So the Kylie Cosmetics acquisition was $600 million in cash immediately, based on her 49% stake being valued at $588 million on paper. Hailey got $600 million, but has $400 million tied up in contingent payments and stock. The thing that bothers me is the billionaire status is like based on the theoretical value of their stake and contingencies, but not actual cash in hand. And specifically Hailey Bieber's, which is an incredible deal, by the way, and happy for her. And it seems like she actually put a lot of work into making a quality product that people like. But Hailey's is 600 million cash on closing, 200 million in shares on closing, 200 million in earnout consideration based on future growth of the brand over 3 years. So 200 million in earnout is contingent on future performance over 3 years, and it could be worth zero if the growth targets aren't met. The shares depend on the acquiring company's stock performance, which obviously can fluctuate significantly. And it's like so much money, but not a billionaire just yet. Anyway, guys, breaking news. Sometimes the media says things that aren't true. I'm not trying to tear a girl boss down, but I am trying to tear down Justin Bieber, who made a weird post saying that, like, I told Hailey she'd never be on the cover of Vogue, and look at her now. It's like the fucking highs and lows. Stick to the highs in wedding vows and in captions. Then all we're doing is speculating about the lows. It's just red flag city. Why do you have to say in your post congratulating someone about something? I never thought you could do it. Very strange. Also, tough stuff watching him perform with SZA. Also, I gather that he is in debt for some situation involving the cancellation of his tour, which allegedly, of course, is due to Carl Lentz in Hillsong Church, if I remember correctly. Now, do I fact check in real time? No, because I like to spitball. I try to fact check with things that matter. So, last week, did I say that Trisha Yearwood's song, I Help You Dance? Sure. It is Leanne Womack. But guys, as a white woman who's kind of blonde, people mix us up a lot, and that has to be okay. I got so much outreach about that. And I also did it with Now and Then, and I know better. When I said that, I think it was in February, that that Goldie Hawn was in it. And I know it's Melanie. I know it's Melanie Griffith, you guys. And I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure that's a huge source of relief. I guess Hailey can sport the fam now. The peptides have turned, if you will. That's what she's known for, right? Her peptide lip treatment. In this economy, if you don't want to pay $18 for Rhode or $24 for Summer Fridays, there's a brand called Naturium. That's $10, has 90% of the same ingredients. They all have different hero ingredients, but you actually don't really need peptides on your lips. Hot tip. Read a lot of dermatological papers about it. Probably not worth getting into on here. There's times when I'm up for dupe culture and times when I'm not. For me, lip gloss is one of those things. It's like, I don't know. It's too hard for me to spend money on something that's going to become like purse debris of tomorrow. It's almost like if beauty products were Toy Story. And you like kind of cast your former faves aside and they just wait there for you. That's how you feel about most lip balms and glosses that I find loose in purses. But anyway, hot tip. That's not what today's about. So I'm doing an intro now. I've already recorded the episode. And what you're about to hear is me kind of walking through a deep dive that ended up happening when I was in the car for 6 hours on the way home from Northern Michigan. And it started with an interview I listened to with the New York Times from Addison Rae. And she made a few really interesting points. And 5 years ago, I did an episode called We Need to Talk about TikTok when it was just converted from Musical.ly. The Hype House was just formed. The kids were on board, but most of us didn't understand it. And I talked about Charli D'Amelio and Addison because they were taking off and knew they were both going to be stars. And I'm really so proud of how their careers have evolved because they both are still such stars. Charli on Broadway, Addison with this pop career. And I don't know. I feel like it is fitting to follow the career of somebody who was kind of spotted on this podcast as having such potential so early on and kind of revisit where she is now because so much of the press she's doing all similarly revisits like her trajectory and why she did what she did to get where she is. And some of her comments took me down this road of like listening to music as an event and spending time with my One Hit Wonder playlist and then looking a lot deeper into like the exploitation of artists in the Y2K era and ultimately drawing a lot of parallels to today, how there was like a high volume of female solo acts and female groups that like had one or two songs and then dropped off so quickly in the Y2K era and how we think of them in a way that is like they personally failed, but the system failed them. Because they were part of this like exploitative pop machine who viewed them as disposable. But the way Addison talked about her experience on TikTok kind of made me think like, God, it's like the cruel irony is artists have gained more control over their careers through social media and streaming. But they've almost internalized the disposability that labels used to impose on them. And Addison Rae describing herself as disposable in terms of the content she was putting out on TikTok shows how the system has evolved and it no longer needs to discard artists because they'll discard themselves first. And I thought it was really cool that she's like putting her foot down and being like, no, I want to make art. I want to make art that needs to be digested. I want to make things that are my taste, that deserve multiple listens. And it's just fun music. And it takes a few listens, but like, I mean, I think Diet Pepsi is outstanding. I love Aquamarine. I love Times Like These. I think New York is like camp. And the way she says chew gum is so addicting. But I have a thing for brain scratching ways people say things in songs. I find her to be very, to be creating something that's very not only specific to her taste and vision, but also is way more female than male gaze, even though it's packaged and delivered to us performance-wise, like the pop stars of yesteryear. And it's almost this really fascinating situation where she is in full control of a career that she's modeling off of women who had absolutely no control over their career. And yeah, it ultimately goes into a comparison of TikTok and TRL and how we've trained entire generations to expect constant novelty. But again, I just am prefacing to do what I like to do, which is tell you what I'm going to tell you, and then tell you what I told you on this long-form podcast that often intertwines multiple topics that I think can get a bit confusing. And so, just trying to have some organization. But if I go off on a tangent, like reading a YM magazine from 2001, for example, stick with me. Okay, enjoy. Mark Fisher Ltd. is casual luxury defined. Their collection seamlessly combines wardrobe essentials and the most coveted trends made with quality materials, understated details, impeccable craftsmanship. I have been wearing the Ivana around. I think a lot of you bought it. It's like a woven Mary Jane silhouette ballet flat. It's a kind of modern take on a classic flat that is not only cute trend, but it's like adds some fun texture, which is nice for the summer. And you can kind of wear it with dresses and skirts, with cuffed jeans. I've worn them with dress pants. They're so versatile, endlessly wearable, called the Ivana. I have them in black. I want them in another color. I can't recommend this shoe enough. And they're really comfortable. And I always have to break in a ballet flat. And I did not have to break in this one. My perfect heeled sandal. And forgive me for being so specific, but I think it's better for me to just tell you very specifically what shoes that are highest on my rotation. And also the Alande, I think, is the perfect sandal because it's a kitten heel with two very minimalistic straps. And it also required no break-in for me, very comfortable. Again, wear it with a trouser, cuff denim, a dress. I don't care if you're going to a wedding or a Wegmans. It's a minimalist silhouette that transitions effortlessly from day to night. And it's the sandal you'll reach for season after season. Beyond those two, they have so many versatile wardrobe essentials. They transcend trends and turn everyday moments into statements. If you want to build your vacation-ready wardrobe from the ground up, shop the new summer collection and receive 20% off your purchase with the code BeThereIn5 at markfisherfootwear.com. That's MARCFISHER footwear.com for 20% off with code BeThereIn5. There's so much to think about as a gal of my age, especially if you're building your family. And the last thing you should have to worry about is if you've got the nutrient support you need, and especially if it's pregnancy safe. And ever since I had my first, I have been taking Rituals prenatal because it's mom founded, third-party tested for heavy metals and microbes. And they share the sources and suppliers behind their key ingredients. And to be perfectly candid with you, they gave me the option to talk about a different product given my circumstances. I feel like that kind of goes to show the mom-owned culture that I appreciate. It's like you can perform as being mom-friendly, but to actually genuinely be like also makes a difference to me too. They have all sorts of different pregnancy support products to support your journey, from fertility support formulated to support conception outcomes, to their essential prenatal and postnatal multis, to support key nutrients before, during, and after pregnancy, to their essential protein daily shake formulated specifically for pregnancy and postpartum. And the thing I've really appreciated about it is that this was the first time I was like really, really sick. This is like far and above the most gentle supplement imaginable on your stomach, on an empty stomach. It has a delayed release design and it has an essence kind of tab. So it has like a good smell and aftertaste, and it just makes a huge difference. I talked to my doctor about it. You talk to your doctor about it. It's got all the good stuff, including an omega-3 DHA, among other things, and is rigorously tested by a third party. When it comes to pregnancy and postpartum support, you want products backed by research and transparency. Mom-founded Ritual puts in the work and shows you the proof. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/BeThereIn5. That's ritual.com/BeThereIn5 for 25% off your first month. What do I start with? James Blunt or Addison Rae, each more compelling than the next. Inspiration really does come in the strangest of places, you guys. And this week, the thing I was refreshed by the most, in a sea of self-help that always wants me to be the best version of me, which implies that I'm not already that, which then gives me anxiety and makes me feel like I need to be doing more, even if I already feel like I'm doing the most. You know how it feels? It's just like, it's like it's there to help you, but it's also there to like create a manufactured deficit. And I need to be uplifted sometimes. And I never saw it coming, but I'll never be the same, because I saw a video from James Blunt that sent me down this like path that ultimately inspired me. And I just, listen to what James Blunt had to say.
Of that I'm sure. She smiled at me on the subway.
20 years ago today, I put out the song that bought me this house. I mean, who would have thought? A song about being high as a kite on drugs, stalking someone else's girlfriend, would resonate quite so much. You guys are beautiful.
You're beautiful.
Could be worse. At least it's not from Daniel Powter. Daniel Powter sings, "'Cause you had a bad day." He's basically a James Blunt dupe. Kind of like Naturium is to Rhode. No offense to the Powder Puffs or whatever Daniel Powter fans are called. But I thought that was kind of like a nice sentiment from James Blunt, no? And then upon doing some light research, he talks about this often. He's like incredibly grateful for his one hit. Like in the US, he's largely considered a one-hit wonder. His song is met with a lot of mockery. But it bought him that beautiful house, which had very charming wood beams. And you know all I care about is vibes. I do gather that in the UK, he's not considered as much of a one-hit wonder or like kind of a zeitgeisty joke. You're Beautiful is kind of made fun of in the US and seen as a one-hit wonder, I would say. I mean, if that's inaccurate, let me know. I don't want to upset the blunt objects. What's James Blunt's fandom called? The Blunt Force? I mean, granted, it was a song about being high on drugs, stalking somebody's girlfriend, which we don't love. People have been critical of James Blunt for, he's watching a woman on the subway. Sure, a brief non-consensual observation might not be ideal for some people. Maybe I'm forgetting some of the lyrics, but in comparison to Clay Aiken, if I was invisible, then I could just watch you in your room. I'd say in terms of disturbing, voyeuristic lyricism, You're Beautiful is pretty harmless. It's like there's a spectrum from Clay Aiken to Edward Cullen in terms of observing people in private spaces without your consent. And does Edward Cullen make it attractive? Yeah, and I don't love that for me. And I know it's an unfair double standard toward hot people, but I don't make the rules. Do you guys talk bad about me behind my back for how often I bring up Edward Cullen on this podcast? Honestly, the thing you should be saying behind my back is how weird it is I named my son Edward, If you want some fuel. Anyway, in another interview, he said, "In the States, I'm a one-hit wonder. You have to understand, I'm so happy with that. Because as I put on my social media profiles, one hit is all you need. I've been called a one-hit wonder by people who are no-hit wonders, and I'm so, so thrilled with that." He also mentioned in this article, I think he's saying he was discovered by Linda Perry from Four Non-Blondes. The one of the leading tracks on my Making Bead Lizards playlist. Very important 90s female folksy crooner. Regardless, I was seeing all of this kind of like intense, improve your life, always be growing, always be hustling bullshit. And then there's James Blunt out here being like, this one song, me being a one-hit wonder, bought me this house. But I was kind of like, wait, what's so bad about being a one-hit wonder? And I just thought it was a really interesting sentiment of like, yeah, we're always obsessing over like, what's next, how we follow up. You can't even celebrate one thing before it's on to the next. Our success is like, if you do something that's huge, like you can't even appreciate it if you don't do another thing that's huge. And it gave me a moment of pause, wondering if like the one-hit wonders actually won. And the ones that really appreciate it, like maybe the secret to contentment that a lot of us miss entirely, because the world treats one-hit wonders as cautionary tales. Like they view it glass half empty, like these people never found success again. Whereas people like James Blunt can celebrate and appreciate knowing that they did something great and have built a life around finding satisfaction in doing that. And how is that not the real success story? Every self-help thing around us is like, oh, you did something great? Well, now do something better. Fuck you. And it's like, geez. And this is where I loop back to Addison Rae. There's a fantastic interview with her with these two dudes from the New York Times. And I think she's just a very interesting case study. She has an album coming out this Friday called Addison, not Addison Rae. Now she's just going by Addison. And the cover art looks like it was made on picnic, like on purpose. And she's really carved out a very unique vibe that at first glance seems a little bit disjointed and off because it doesn't look like anything else. But if you kind of take a minute to appreciate it, you're like, well, good for her for trying to do something different. And like, if this is her specific taste, how amazing is it that like she's kind of leveraging her internet fame and power that the artists of yesteryear never had to do exactly what she wants with her music career, because her audience is so valuable. She can't really be manipulated into doing what a label wants or pushing her into a box. She could just fund this whole venture on her own if she wanted to. And there's just so much chatter about how she doesn't deserve to be here. She's just a TikTok dancer and calling the venture inauthentic and all this stuff. And I'm like, what does authenticity mean for a person we don't know, who we've only really seen dance online and who doesn't do a lot of interviews? I actually would argue this is the thing she's worked on behind the scenes and probably is authentic. On the album, I think a lot of songs stand out production-wise. Not necessarily lyrically, but that's fine. They don't need to. I think we forget that music can add value in different ways, and not everything needs to be like, your touch brought forth an incandescent glow, tarnished but so grand. I mean, I used to scream at the top of my lungs. I don't know, kung fu fighting, dancing queen, tribal spaceman, and all that's in between. Like, what does that mean? Not everything needs to be like a think piece, but it can still exude artistry, even if it's unserious. The New York Times interview and the Zane Lowe interviews were super interesting because, I mean, she has 96 million followers. She's stupid rich. Like, she is, like, the world literally is her oyster. Baby, come get the pearl, to quote Aquamarine. That is the stick, like, I don't use the word sick often, but it has a sick dance break in that music video. Everything I've seen of her up until this point, she's just always been kind of sweet and giggly. But it was interesting to see her have such clarity on what she's trying to do and speak with such honesty about how, like, no, she doesn't have a background in music theory, and she doesn't, and like, she did get her start on TikTok, and she's not like apologizing. She's like, I did what I did on TikTok because I wanted to be a star. I want to sing and I want to dance and I want to act and I want to perform. And performing is what I've been doing my whole life. And per the inauthenticity claims, she was saying like, well, I was putting out all these videos and dancing to viral TikTok songs because at that point I just wanted to get out. Like, she was, you know, a 19-year-old who didn't make the LSU dance team, just trying to figure out her next steps. And at that point, are you going for authenticity? Or if you want to be a star, like, you're playing the game. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting. She was honest about that. And she goes on to say how she considers taste and choice to be a luxury. To get out, she had to present the most palatable, arguably inauthentic version of herself. But in doing that, she gained the leverage she needed to be at a point in her career where she has the money, the audience, the power to be what I think is the definition of success, which is the ability to be selective. And the creative direction of the music videos is so quirky. And the songs don't really sound like anything that's out there right now, even though they like nod to a lot of different things. And I at first was like, who's spearheading this? Like, whose vision is this? What is she trying to do? What box is she trying to fit in? But she's made a very good case for like, this is my taste. This is what I like. And this is my vision. This is what I wanted to do. And even in like the Aquamarine video, she does like all this crazy body movement on a chair that like looks kind of weird. And I thought it was to be like sexy and different. But hearing her talk about her sources of inspiration made me realize how harshly we judge people and what we assume they're trying to do. And she was saying that since she was a kid, she's had this like preoccupation with contortion because she loved the circus and was like a huge fan of Cirque du Soleil and would like practice doing it. And I'm like, here I am being a judgmental bitch, being like, she's trying too hard to be sexy when she's just a gal who loves the circus. And we can be both. See also Tinsley Mortimer. And I want to support people who are like taking risks. Like, the looks she's going for, like, are not the conventionally, like, hot looks. Like, she's doing a lot of weird shit, but I think it's kind of cool. Hearing her talk about her sources of inspo is also fascinating because she's like the YouTube generation. So all of her musical references are stuff like we kind of watched live. Like, she points to Britney Spears taking off the tuxedo or suit and revealing the iconic nude bra and low-rise pants with the crystals on it. And it was funny because they overlaid a clip of Britney Spears tearing off like a suit to unveil like a pink tube top and like white pants. Britney Spears is no stranger to a tear-off moment, but Addison was talking about the iconic one with the very controversial nude matching set. And I just thought that was a huge oversight for the New York Times because that was like a really big deal at the time. What is that like weird consortium of grumpy, narky parents that complain about everything in the media? Obviously, we know the FCC won't let me be or let me be me. Like, that's a government agency. But there's also some league of parents that hate stuff. And in late 90s, early 2000s core raunch culture, there was also like a culture of media reporting about parents being mad about it. And I don't feel like people report about parents being mad about, you know, slutty outfits anymore. Actually, never mind. I mean, I don't really consume a lot of conservative media. And I'm sure people definitely do, but now I'm old enough to like roll my eyes and ignore it. But I mean, specifically, there's some like parents coalition that I just don't hear about anymore. It's crazy to me to think that that was, looking at it now, I'm like, just because it was flesh colored, people thought she was, she's literally not naked. There's an iconic YM that I bought off of eBay that I have covered in plastic. I think it's behind me, that where she's in a bathtub of diamonds. No offense, long before Look What You Made Me Do. That is so important to me. That were from her Lucky era. And I forgot how much I liked that song until I saw it in the opening scene of Overcompensating, which is the best show, and you guys have to watch it for like a perfect blend of satire and sincerity of, you know, early 2010s college life. It's my favorite kind of pop culture. Anything that on the surface is seemingly comedic and lighthearted and has a ton of pop culture references within it, but actually represents something deeper that is ultimately very important. And I think that this show will be very important to a lot of people. And even though it wasn't made for me, it entertained me so much. And it's gotten, I don't know. As you know, I've had a tough month and I've watched it 3 times. And Mary Beth Barone and Benito Skinner. I want them on the pod so bad because I want to talk about all the millennial lore. But I feel like I'm slightly embarrassed sometimes and won't ask people to come on my pod when I feel like my last episode isn't like a representation of it. And I'm like, why would you want to come on my pod? And I'm like, hi, come eat, pray, love with me. I'm sad. Anyway, upsetting news from Be There in 5HQ. I cannot find my Britney Spears Lucky YM limited edition. That was... I have coated in plastic. I have my whole clubhouse that sits behind me is my archives. The important millennial artifacts that I want to keep pristine. You know, my limited edition Dooney and Burke with the Hearts, sported by Marissa Cooper. My Meghan and Harry commemorative tin from London back when they liked them and actually sold merch. My Holiday in the Sun DVD, Care and Keeping a View from American Girl. Emily Schumann's Cupcake and Cashmere book, where she tells you to wear infinity scarves and ankle booties with skin-tight pencil skirts that are horizontally striped. And I have a whole stack of like Cosmo Girl 17s, YMs. But I also have a box of stuff that's like too good to even be exposed to air that I don't know. Like apples, do they oxidize? And all I could find in this box was my stupid New York Times bestseller newspapers and some American Girl catalogs that I want to keep pristine because when Felicity came out, obviously, and she looks so gorgeous on the cover in her blue taffeta, and I don't want it to get destroyed. But the Lucky YM's nowhere in sight, and I think I've been robbed because obviously that's the first place people would go. I'm concerned. But while I was looking, I picked up a Jessica Simpson YM from January 2001. What happened to my screen? And I glanced at this fun fact. Well, let me read the whole paragraph. It's about her not ditching her values, even for Hollywood. Remember when the only newsworthy thing about a pop star was if they were a virgin or a bad role model and being too sexy? I don't have a desire to be a bad girl, hang out with the in crowd, get drunk on the weekend, says Jessica. That isn't me, and it never will be. So, as other celebs rip off their clothes to... Wait. So, I didn't see this part earlier. So, as other celebs rip off their clothes to reveal diamond-studded underwear, This pop star keeps her principles totally pure. That's hilarious. I was actually about to tell you this other fact that says she was actually supposed to play the lead in Coyote Ugly. That's what I was about to tell you. It's interesting. But what are the odds of me opening this random ass magazine and in this paragraph, they're talking about diamond-studded underwear, and I was just trying to explain to you that it was a big deal. And yeah, it was a big deal because in this random magazine, that's literally the reference they're using to shade more scandalous artists. Relax. Oh my God. But yeah, isn't that crazy that she was supposed to play the lead in Coyote Ugly? But honestly, I don't know if it's the internalized misogyny or just a general aversion to the Dukes of Hazzard. I don't think she was right for that role. I think that was Piper Parabo's role. Not to be confused with Parker Posey. But yeah, my reaction to that news was, Piper, no. That's so hard to say that. Piper, no. It's like an N-A-A-O-H-H. Anyway, yeah, Jessica Simpson as in Coyote Ugly, I just think would have been the wrong kind of wrong, which is a reference to one of the most underrated songs, The Right Kind of Wrong from Coyote Ugly by Leanne Rimes. Also, Can't Fight the Moonlight was a perfect song. What a great soundtrack. The Right Kind of Wrong is an anthem for friend-zone girls wanting to romanticize a main character out about guys that are just straight up mean to them. You can try, well, no, you can try to resist, try to hide from my kiss is another. We Can't Fight the Moonlight. Great song for werewolves. Something interesting that Addison Rae said that I thought was a good point is that listening to music used to be an event or an activity or a hobby in the same way that like reading was. Like when I was younger, I would listen to music and do nothing else. Like that was the thing. I would like, whether it was, appointment listening of top 40 radio or a CD and, rifling through the booklet and learning all the lyrics and paying attention to every single song, like in learning an album. Even with when music got digitized and we'd burn CDs and with iPods, like listening to music was something that I would do as a standalone activity and really, really listen. Now it's something you're kind of doing as a supplemental activity where you're typically doing something else while listening to music. And I thought that was an interesting observation because it is true. Like with the exception of Taylor Swift, which arguably that's like the most fun I have all year is when we're making an event out of listening to her album, I'll kind of listen to stuff in passing and not really like absorb it as art or make it into an activity. I mean, a lot of stuff's like catchy and not that serious, but I think people put work into stuff that deserves a few passes. But like, I'll hear Ariana Grande has Eternal Sunshine bonus tracks that are good and I'll half listen while going to sleep and something's like on TV in the background. I'll be like, oh, I like Hampstead and, kind of forget about it. And it kind of made me want to actually listen to stuff. And instead of listening to motivational podcasts on the way home from Michigan, I decided I was going to cruise through my one-hit wonder playlist to honor the ladies of yesteryear that made me who I am. And I hope that my streams in some way support them. God, I sure hope they're still getting compensated, even though notoriously pop stars back in the day were not being fairly compensated for their work. Famously, Lance Bass said he was making $35 a day and in NSYNC's apex of popularity because Lou Pearlman was a greedy monster. And then last night asked you your favorite one-hit wonders on Instagram to make sure we're aligned and to make sure you were engaged with this topic. And fortunately, you were. I can always count on you guys for being passionate about pop culture of yesteryear. I have a few playlists if you want to peruse these artists. And again, that's not a perfect science because if you are a fan of this artist and their album songs, you're going to be like, they're not a 1-2 hit wonder. Like in the question box, somebody said Lifehouse was a one-hit wonder with Hanging by a Moment, a perfect song, by the way. But anybody who main charactered out, on a public bus due to unrequited love of some kind, listening to you and me, wishing it was about them, knows that Lifehouse was not a one-hit wonder. But, I don't want to shame somebody for thinking they are because Hanging by a Moment was arguably a bigger song. Making Bead Lizards is very like Lilith Fair, very Liz Fair. Actually, Liz Fair is not on this playlist. Yikes. Why can't I breathe? I'm trying to correct for this oversight. I will add that. It starts with I Love You Always Forever by Donna Lewis. We have Stay, Lisa Loeb. What's up, Four Non Blondes? Hey, yeah. Meredith Brooks, Bitch, As They Lay Me Down, Paula Cole. These are artists that, like, sometimes I'll bring them up and people are like, oh, I don't know who that is. But I'm like, yes, you do. Because if I say, oh, an iconic song is Missing by Everything But the Girls, somebody might be like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Not only do you know it, you also miss it, like the deserts miss the rain. Because you've heard this song a million times, especially if you've ever, like, shopped at the Black House White Market. I have to be careful. Spotify's taking down my episodes left and right for copyright issues. But what's crazy is this should fall under fair use because it's commentary. But I Miss You Like the Deserts Miss the Rain. Not to be confused with Kiss the Rain by Billy Myers. This is such a good song. I feel like it sounds like she's saying Kiss the Ring. We've got Fast Car, Tracy Chapman. We've got so much good stuff on here. I just think sometimes this is under-celebrated talent with, like, pop rock folk vibes. And I named it that because I think it's perfect music for doing some light beadwork, puff painting with your gal pals. It's music that reminds me of my neighbor, Mrs. G. But also, we need to talk about the pop girlies that were so horribly exploited and put through the pop assembly line of the late 90s, early 2000s that, like, openly was trying to make dupes of popular pop stars that were working in the marketplace. This is why we have such a high volume of one-hit wonders from this time. Because, and I'm not talking about making V-listers, this is the other playlist, Inflatable Chair Lounging. When we think of these quintessential bubblegum pop one or two-hit wonders you'd listen to while lounging on your favorite glorified pool float that would leave you with an incredibly undesirable sound should you sit on it semi-sweaty with shorts on and give you a small, what's the equivalent of a carpet burn, but for plastic on the back of your thighs when you got up. Really, they're deeply impractical, but like my mouth waters when I see one. The same way I lust after an iMac in like a candy-coated color. We have Samantha Moomba. We have Blue Cantrell, Hit 'em Up Style. Bewitched, C'est La Vie. Dream, of course, He Loves You Not. Willa Ford, I Want to Be Bad, Never Ever, All Saints. Myra, Miracles Happen. Oh, I skipped over. I started this playlist at a very spiritual point for me personally, but I realized not everybody might be aware of this artist, which is Stacey Orico. There's Gotta Be More to Life. That one was a bit Disney specific. Where Are My Girls At 702? How Do I Feel Hoku? Now, there's a term people use on TikTok these days when they want to be conspiratorial about people that kind of blow up out of nowhere that I don't really think is real as an industry plant. Remember, like, Axel, that kid he's lived in like a tiny, tiny studio apartment in New York, and his toilet was like his bed and oven, and he like got rejected from Juilliard, and people were like, he's an industry plant. It's like, why though? Let me look up where Axel is. Seems to be back with his parents in Michigan. He had an Elmer's collab in March. So, how's that for sticking around? Yeah, don't think he's an industry plant. What I was going to say is, if there ever were an industry plant, I would say it's Hoku. I was free when we met. You were eating a burrito with a girl, some brunette, at El Tarasco's. She's Don Ho's daughter, so Nepo baby. She didn't even seem into it in the videos. She did score a song on the Legally Blonde soundtrack with Perfect Day, but I don't think she wanted to be there. Now she's super religious, I think, and out of the music business. But yeah, something about Hoku gives industry plant to me. James Blunt's career might have bought him a house, but my career gets me a Cozy Earth discount, and that's worth its weight in gold. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets are temperature regulating, guaranteed to give you a comfortable night's sleep. They're made from viscose from bamboo. They naturally wick away heat and moisture from your body, helping you sleep several degrees cooler. And in fact, I was just editing back this podcast while doing some chores. I was making my bed, and I just noticed that on the inside of the fitted sheet, there are tabs that say which are the sides. I never know which of the fitted sheets are the sides versus like the top and bottom. How handy is that? I don't know if that's standard, but God love you, Cozy Earth. You make me cozy at night. You make my chores easy. They also have other easy, breezy, comfortable everyday wear like the all-day tee, an everyday essential with naturally breathable fabric so you can stay cool and comfortable all day long. Their everywhere pant that is like refined comfort and adaptability. You could kind of wear it anywhere and it wouldn't look like a sweatpant and in any temperature, and you'd be cool when you're warm and warm when you're cool because of the viscose from bamboo. I always wear the Cozy Earth jogger set on planes so I'm the right temperature. And since my dad, like a lot of dads out there, tends to run warm, I got him one for Christmas so he could take it on his travels. And you know what day it's coming up. Whether it's a fatherly figure, a dad, husband, boyfriend, grandpa, anybody, there's somebody that provides you comfort in your life who you want to be comfortable as well. I always think the people that are impossible to shop for, your best bet is just to get them something cozy and comfortable. I highly recommend a jogger set, bamboo sheets if you sleep warm. If you need any personal recommendations, feel free to DM me. I do think I have purchased their entire catalog. But regardless, it's a risk-free purchase because there's a lifetime warranty on all apparel items. Cozy Earth makes comfort that lasts. And this Father's Day, he deserves it. Go to cozyearth.com and use code BeThereIn5 for 40% off all men's apparel. For dads who work hard during their 9 to 5 and deserve the best during their 5 to 9. You know when you see people on red carpets or influencers and they're just like dewdrops, they just glow, and it's like, why don't I look like that? I swear to you, the difference is body oil, and I learned this too late in life, and I have been shouting from the rooftops ever since that OSEA's best-selling archaeology body oil will change your life. The compliments I receive with it on my body, on the smell, the way I feel with the glow, the way that people text me all the time being like, why did I wait so long? It's the scent of summer bottled. It's the citrus scent with mango and mandarin and grapefruit and lime and cypress. And it's OSEA's #1 best-selling product for a reason. They sell an archaeology body oil every 30 seconds. Wild stat. Rich yet never greasy and clinically proven to instantly improve skin elasticity. It visibly firms and makes skin feel more sculpted in tone and leaves skin silky, soft, and unbelievably glowing. And I do have to elaborate on the never greasy part because obviously I made it clear I'm passionate about my sheets. And not ruining like fabric is huge to me. And I never thought like a body oil wouldn't like rub off on everything ever. Get healthy, glowing skin for summer with clean, vegan face and body care from OSEA. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code BeThereIn5 at OSEAMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use code BeThereIn5 for 10% off. We have 18s upside down, of course. Chemicals React. Such a good song, Allie and AJ. I also think that there's interesting random artists that would pop up and do like a cover song that never really got a chance, like Atomic Kitten's The Tide is High. I have S Club Party on Inflatable Chair Lounging. They're far from a one-hit wonder. Their origin story is fascinating. And there ain't no party like an S Club Party because an S Club Party is too crowded because they had no business having 7 people. I know that's normal for K-pop, but this was not normal in the early 2000s. It was too many. But I do think that's roughly how many people you need to provide routine maintenance at a motel pool on the outskirts of Miami. So perhaps that was the most sensible choice for the show. But S Club 7 was created by Simon Fuller right after he got fired from the Spice Girls. And he wanted to make a boy-girl archetype thing like the Spice Girls. And I think S Club 7 is like this assembly line's most systematic implementation of this. Simon Fuller auditioned more than 10,000 applicants for S Club 7. 10,000. By a guy who was at the helm of one of the most successful groups of all time. And those are the 7 people you came up with? I mean, no offense. I love S Club 7's music, but I actually think that they benefit from the cheerleader effect, where there's so many goddamn people in the group, they all kind of mesh together and look good looking as one. But individually, they're okay. The Spice Girls connection is very obvious when you consider that Hannah is a dupe for Emma Bunton. But the others, I always felt like were normal-ish looking people, and there wasn't a clear heartthrob. His strategy was to target children, which is kind of odd, but they launched through a BBC children's television series rather than traditional music channels. When Paul left in 2002, he revealed that their financial reality was pretty dire and described them as essentially dancing monkeys to Simon Fuller, and that the band was designed to succeed for one person only, and that he was the only one that really pocketed anything. Okay, my last 2 fun facts about S Club 7. Paul and Hannah. Paul's getting down on the floor, Hannah's screaming out for more. Want to see Bradley swing, want to see Rachel do her thing. Then we've got Jo, she's got the flow. But again, not really, because her back problems are what ultimately made the band split up. Tough stuff. She's promoted to lead singer. Your lead singer can't dance. What are you going to do? I mean, when you have enough members to play a full volleyball game and still have a sub, yet one of their singers has a back injury and the whole thing falls apart. I mean, one might think that if one person goes down, they'd be able to fill in, but I guess not. But yeah, Paul and Hannah dated for a long time. They split up in 2006 and rekindled their romance in 2015. It feels kind of recent, but they split up again in 2016. Lastly, Kylie Minogue. Her biggest selling song, Can't Get You Out of My Head, was written for S Club 7, but they decided that it wasn't the right fit. It was then offered to Sophie Alex Baxter, who turned it down, and then it was offered to Kylie Minogue. It became her best-selling song. Anyways, to quote S Club 7 and bring it all back. My favorite, I would say, there's a handful of one-hit wonders that are so important to me, it's even hard for me to talk about. One of them is All Cried Out by Allure. It's a power ballad that is so stunning that is just not talked about enough. And I know I've talked about it on this show, but it means a lot to me. We have Dance With Me, Devil and Morgan, You Gotta Be, Desiree, Shackles, Praise You, Mary Mary, No More, 3LW, Black, Bring It All to Me, Candy, Don't Think I'm Not, Should Daisy, so important. One of my other personal overlooked favorites is Crush by Jennifer Page. Oh, not that one. I wish I could play these because I feel like a lot of them you might not remember, but I know you would remember. So please look up Inflatable Chair Lounging. Tattoo, All the Things She Said, which all the things they weren't saying is that those two women are straight. And what's so crazy about Tattoo, I was looking into their story. It's actually really sad. This child psychologist turned creep got obsessed with marketing and music and did a bunch of research about porn sites and what people were looking up the most. And they realized it was underage lesbian fantasies. And he literally groomed these two girls to pretend to be lovers and had them pose as that with All the Things She Said as this girl band. And apparently in Russia, people knew that they were straight and posing as lovers, but they didn't in the UK and the US. And there was all this backlash. I guess people did find out back in the day that they weren't lesbians. Maybe I did find that out, but I did not know that they were hugely exploited and the brainchild of a PEDO. And it made me really sad because, yeah, the lore was they were lovers. And this song was banned in Russia because of them not being supportive of gay people. And when I heard that they weren't gay and that wasn't true and no one was LGBT or Q, I felt robbed of my first foray into allyship. It's kind of like when I learned I wasn't actually doing anything with that Livestrong bracelet. But you know what? Maybe I did my part by listening to Clay Aiken's Invisible. Yeah, he came out in 2008. Phew. Oh yeah, People cover story. Yes, I'm gay. Why do they make people do that? I hate that people even feel like they have to do this, but poor guy too. At the time he was pretending to sing to a woman. That's probably why those lyrics were so bad. Kind of in overcompensating when Benny's pretending to like girls. He just says the most on the nose direct things. Yeah, I'm gonna sex some vagina or something, stuff like that. It's yeah, if I were invisible, I'd just watch you in your room for sure. Bless his heart. It must be a crazy experience to run for two American institutions, American Idol based on votes and the American House of Representatives based on votes and win Idol, but not the House of Representatives twice. What are you gonna do? Again, so I just want to be clear, you guys. Sometimes I get emails that I'll be love her or bless their heart or this, that, that, and they're actually, they are a raging homophobe. And I'm oh, sorry. I love to talk about niche randos, but I don't always keep up with their most recent opinions. So please know that if I'm talking about something nostalgic, I pretty much only have a frame of reference from when they were at their peak popularity. What was I talking about? Oh, my one-hit wonders. Sorry. The good news is I would never be so dense, be so ill-informed to exclude Queen Icon legend Fifi Dobson. Ayo. These songs are everything to me. Honestly, if I were to pick a one-hit wonder that maybe means the most to me of any song ever, that I main character to, that I walked around the world to, so underrated, and a song that I genuinely think is beautiful, is X Factor UK winner Leona Lewis's Bleeding Love. I can hear it a million times and still listen to it, and I should add that, but that's not really inflatable chair era. That's more my futon era that I used as a main living room couch, but still. I look back on the music that means something to me that I listen to that helps me connect with the lighter version of myself that's like such a dopamine hit from when I was younger and thriving in my girliest girl of days. Something about like unserious media and that levity it adds to your life and the way it allows you to like bond with friends and connects and underscores your memories. Like that is something serious. I keep seeing videos that are like these grown men, even this New York Times interview, like doing this commentary on Addison Rae's album, and I see people, it's so much commentary on the behavior and music of Chappell Roan, of Doechii, of, the popular artists today. And like, I say this as a commentator, there's just too much goddamn commentary and analysis. And I think that when Addison was talking about how she cares more about like the feeling that a song evokes than like these specific tiny production points or lyrics or this, that, or the other. And she cares about like the showmanship and performance. It just, I don't know. I was kind of like excited because I feel like she gets it from being older Gen Z and experiencing a lot of the music we did. Yeah, I don't know. A young gal taking risks and making fun music that young girls will have fun listening to because they deserve it. Fun is important. It's not always that serious. Grown-ass men don't always need to be commenting on our art. I hate that we're in an era where everything's about like, is it authentic? Is it relevant? Is she trying too hard? Like, can we just fucking enjoy how something makes you feel? It's just, and the way I felt listening to some good old-fashioned girly top 40 music was delightful. It's not like this is my favorite album of all time. I just mean that like, I took time to like listen to the songs, which I just kind of never do. And I just appreciated them for what they were. The vocals are super like foggy and high. They're like almost a dream sequence. She worked with Elvira, who I thought was Elvira until I listened to Addison talk about her. Elvira did one of the better of Taylor Swift's Baker's dozen of Willow remixes. Hold on, I gotta take Tugboat out. Both of her collaborators are signed to Max Martin's publishing company. And yeah, I feel like for the majority of pop music, like lyrics haven't been top notch. I mean, does Hit Me Baby One More Time make sense to you? Well, that's one of Max Martin's. I love the lore of Max Martin's songs that have lyrical clumsiness because he's not a native English speaker. That's why Ariana Grande's Break Free says, now that I've become who I really are. But he thought that hit was up and coming American slang for call me. So it was like, call me, baby, one more time, like hit me up. But we just like didn't overthink it. What's another one? I mean, there's a word in the Backstreet Boys, Shape of My Heart, tragical. Interesting. And Britney's Drive Me Crazy. Tell me I'm not in the blue. What is the blue? Tell me I'm not in the blue, that I'm not wasting my feelings on you. My best guess is like there was a conversation about the phrase out of the blue. Like, don't leave me or don't ghost me type vibes. It's got to be some like confusion between like in the dark and out of the blue. And the funny thing is about, not understanding figures of speech in other languages. If you don't realize it's like an idiom or something, like you can't reword it. It's like, you can't say like cat's out of the bag. Tell me my bag's with a cat. And it's like, well, that changes it regardless. The only other thing, well, I have so many things to say about Max Martin, but also it will be eternally funny that for like what a smash hit, a timeless smash hit, I Want It That Way is, at no point is it established which way it is. In fact, it has conflicting messaging because the narrator says, believe me when I say, I want it that way. But then he says to his paramour, I never want to hear you say, I want it that way. What? So the ideal circumstance is that you're not going the same way. But again, what the fuck way is it? But yeah, they're just as confused. They're like, tell me why. And I'm like, I know. Great song. Completely nonsensical. But my point exactly, things don't always need to be that deep. I started to think, like, there's so many connections in terms of, like, her commentary about the expendable nature of content, of art, and her experience on TikTok, and what a lot of one-hit wonders went through in kind of the assembly line hit makers exploiting young, especially female solo talent that found its way to my Inflatable chair playlist, but probably made it out with virtually nothing. And I think that was a big shift in the late 90s when something would work, labels would just kind of copy paste, drop in young people with potential into a formula. I was reading more about this, and a lot of one-hit wonders during this time. They were calculated A&R decisions, which stands for Artist and Repertoire Division of a record label or music publishing company that scouts, finances, and handles like development of artists, recording artists, songwriters, etc. Labels would sign artists for one singular marketable song. They weren't actually that interested in developing talent and spend heavily on promotion for a quick return and abandon them pretty quickly when the formula didn't immediately repeat for a second song, even though the artist would be like locked into these lengthy contracts and they had full power to not release their album, to not release feature singles. The label could drop them at any time. And I think we know of like some famous cases of people this happened to. JoJo had of Leave, Get Out fame, or Get Out Leave. I can never remember which one's in parentheses. She had 2 successful albums. Her debut went platinum. But when she was 12 years old, that's insane. 12 years old, she signed a 7-album deal in 2004. And after 2 albums, she was unable to break her contract and was also prevented from releasing new music for a decade. So yeah, back in the day, there were a lot of these really shitty contractual structures that essentially allowed labels to gatekeep or blackball artists by refusing to release their music while keeping them contractually bound. I think now it's probably more common to have a contract that is, written to expire after a certain number of years, for example. But JoJo's contract and many others in that time required the artist to put out a given number of albums before they can move on to a new label. But a label can refuse to release your album at any time if they don't see sufficient ROI potential or for any other reason. So if you have to release a certain number of albums to be released from your contract, but your label won't release your albums to enable you to fulfill your contract, what the fuck do? You're stuck. It's artistic imprisonment, and it's really, really shitty. And I think we hear about like the more notable cases, but labels would kind of like shotgun sign 20 to 30 artists, knowing 1 or 2 would like be profitable. And you need the, couple of hits to subsidize the losses. And artists essentially had to pay for the failures through these long-term deals. And all the marketing costs were treated as loans to the artists, and the multiple album commitments. And now streaming's reduced distribution costs, and social media is free. You can get famous for free if you're lucky. Artists can build fan bases directly. I'd venture to guess that a lot of labels, the scouting they're doing is people with existing audiences, because that's a way to mitigate risk. That's what every type of medium is doing, publishing included. I don't think I would have gotten my book deal if I didn't already have an established audience. So I do think the contracts are more favorable now. But also you hear artists talk about how, like Halsey and Charlie XCX and the other Charlie Puth, have made videos talking about how labels are like pressuring them to either manufacture these like viral moments by making TikToks trends before the album's release, or engineering songs to have TikTok friendly moments in them to hope that they go viral on TikTok. The best case scenario is somebody just happens to make a dance like the Apple dance for Charlie XCX. Like that, what that dance did for that song, it's like immeasurable. The democratization of fame and exposure of social media is such a double-edged sword, because a lot of the industry gatekeepers have been removed, which is, I think, a positive thing. And it has allowed labels to not be as exploitative and abusive. But as it always does, anything corporate, anything capitalistic is going to exploit these mediums that are supposed to be like organic and user-driven to try to manipulate the content. What I didn't realize about TikTok is that there's a lot of like sneaky ways music gets promoted that appears to be organic. There's technical loopholes, like because you can download videos on TikTok. A lot of people put like ad in the caption. Anybody can download the video, reshare it on other platforms. If ad is in the caption, it's not going to be on the video anywhere. And then when you upload it to Reels, the sound is saved, and then other people can remix off of that sound, and the sharing and exposure compounds from there. It's kind of an effective way to have a song further pollinate, but only have its initial point of contact with the consumer have that turnoff of being a paid partnership. It also apparently does a lot of contest campaigns where creators are offered cash prizes to make videos with specific songs. And I think contests avoid traditional disclosure requirements since they aren't direct sponsorships. And also there's like services. One of them's called Songfluencer, and they strategically will match your music to an influencer, and they like do stuff or try to make a viral like type of structured video or trend to that song to make campaigns appear organic rather than paid. In Addison's interview with the New York Times, she mentions that like early on in her TikTok dancing career, she was like PayPal'd like $20 or $40 by a label to dance to a Licky Lee song. I feel like that's an insulting amount of money unless she had like 500 followers or something. But I mean, this is how new creators that are just starting to go viral get taken advantage of, because nobody actually knows what influencers get paid. And there's a lot of variability. What's tricky about TikTok is the illusion of user control. The reality is its algorithm is entirely opaque. They're very tight-lipped about how the algorithm works because what makes it unique and addictive is its algorithm. And you think you're discovering content organically. And the magic of it is like some of it really is based on just stuff that's good quality. Like I don't think the choreographer Molly Long was in cahoots with the algo to get her, teenage dance troupe to go insanely viral with pop music. But that was everywhere and for a long time. What's special about the platform is it allows things to happen that wouldn't otherwise, like giving music an extended life or sometimes a second life with a new generation. This was best exemplified early on in the pandemic when Fleetwood Mac's Dreams went to soared, and the Billboard Hot 100. It's from like 1977, and then in like 2020, it was in like the top 10 because some man was filming himself skateboarding on the highway, drinking Ocean Spray cranberry juice while listening to Dreams. And then I filmed Felicity doing the same for my virtual live show, where I did an American Girl doll hype house and did stop motion videos of them performing various TikTok trends. And as I say that, I'm not embarrassed. In fact, I miss the spare time I had prior to having a child. Do you know how long stop motion videos take? I don't think I slept for 2 days. It was awesome. But anyway, a song from 1977 or Meghan Trainor's, fourth non-single off of her second album in 2012 will be soaring in virality on TikTok, getting millions of likes. But someone like a Lady Gaga might not be able to make something land. It's kind of a weird universe that can be miserable or magical. I think TikTok was disruptive because it harkened back to what made the pop bubble unique, in that we had an outlet that pushed music to us for discoverability and exposure, actively pushing content and pushing artists to us algorithmically. But for years, platforms shifted away from that. It was all about pull. As things like TRL dropped off, that provided exposure and discoverability and were pushing things to us. With piracy, with YouTube, with MySpace, we were able to discover new talent on our own. People were able to get their stuff out there. Artists were able to grow organic audiences without the, traditional methodology. MySpace was like huge. I mean, that's where Soulja Boy got his start famously. I mean, among others. Over 8 million artists were discovered on MySpace. Crazy. MySpace walked so TikTok could run. MySpace, so TikTok could have videos go viral of people holding space with the lyrics of Defying Gravity. And like the way I see my musical journey, until like 2005, music found me. Then 2005 to 2020, I found music. And now music finds me again, if that makes sense. So when I was researching more about the role of TRL in fucking over these one-hit wonders that I want to defend on this here podcast, I was kind of drawing a lot of parallels to TikTok, and in terms of a lack of clarity of who gets platformed and why, an illusion of a democratic process, and the expendable nature of how long something can succeed there. Obviously, they're completely different, but they are both mediums that push things to us. And it's actually kind of similar in terms of the pressure people feel to make this like highly visual, catchy thing that like an entire career seems to ride upon that you hope helps you cut through the clutter, but there's like no guarantees. And I don't feel like I've heard enough people talk about how quantifiably prominent TRL was in driving sales. Usually, like other countdowns, VH1, I assume Much Music, their music video countdowns were ranked based off of things like sales charts and radio. But with TRL, the countdown drove the charts. The countdown drove the sales. It was the complete opposite. TRL marketed itself as a viewer-controlled democracy because it was voter-based, right? But it was theater. So the way videos would enter the rotation of TRL was through formal agreements between MTV and record labels. There was no public submission process. And a former TRL video editor later admitted that they faked most of the call-in requests when the show launched, and MTV always knew what videos they wanted to push. And the voting system was basically manipulated. So, for example, Backstreet Boys mobilized 12,000 fans as an official online street team to coordinate voting wars against NSYNC. This is just to vote for videos to be on TRL. There were obviously so many more artists on TRL than just pop stars. One of the most popular videos on TRL that drove me insane, and I saw way too much, was Korn Freak on a Leash. I don't know how much of a sellout they were with a massive marketing budget. Genre-wise, they seem like they'd probably be slightly more authentic. But on the other hand, even a Limp Bizkit maybe wouldn't strike me as the first on the list to have an embarrassing cheating strategy going on and be trying the hardest. But yeah, their label was Interscope, and Interscope sent emails with 7-step cookie deletion instructions to circumvent TRL's voting system. The label will give away 150 t-shirts daily to participating fans. And there's a grand prize, wow, get this, of a Sega Dreamcast signed by Fred Durst. That's from Salon magazine, amongst other sources. Interscope also escalated a Puddle of Mud campaign, offering people trips to LA to just vote for them on TRL. I vaguely remember this, but in 1999, there were rightful rumors that the voting system was fake. So there was a prank coordinated, I guess, on the internet, perhaps on GeoCities or Angel Fire, to vote for an old music video. And if it made it, then they know it was legit. And the thing they voted for was Hangin' Tough. And it made it to the countdown to which therefore debunking it. But they're not dummies, of course they're going to catch on to that and air it. So it looks that way. I think the most telling, I think the most glaring thing to anybody in the industry at the time would be that, how on earth, if an artist was unknown, not in the charts for radio airplay, not in sales charts, why the hell would the music video be in the top 10 when you couldn't discover that video anywhere else? It wasn't YouTube. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, it's not that it was all fake. What I'm saying is kind of like TikTok. It's there are parts of it that are very real, very organic. I mean, didn't they even? I feel like they either had to create the retirement rule because of Korn or because of Tom Green's the Bum Bum song. If they were just completely going to control everything, wouldn't they have Tom Green was one of their acts. I think it was a combination of actual voter contribution, but also sneaky things behind the scenes that weren't disclosed, similar to TikTok, creating a frustrating situation for labels and artists where you want to play the game, but may not exactly have clarity as to how, or not know why some people get favored over others, or some people you might be oh, they just have this it factor, took off and were viral, but that's not actually the case. Conversely, some people just make high quality stuff that genuinely does well. And even though I kind of side-eye a disconnect from sales data or charting data, also different genres have different types of fan bases. And it's, Korn might have had a very passionate, more niche fan base with an online community that Fifi Dobson might not have had. Just love Fifi Dobson. She was on TRL all the time. But Fifi Dobson was, not being But Fifi Dobson was not present on Casey Kasem's Top 40 airwaves, if I recall correctly. For the labels, apparently Total Request Live became the primary metric for determining marketing spend and artist development decisions. It increased music video production costs by 200 to 400%. And labels routinely spent $1 to $3 million on videos specifically crafted for TRL's format. They would cost more than the entire album recording. But there would be like a clear ROI because, according to Wikipedia, extended TRL presence correlated with 50 to 100% higher first week sales compared to artists who were not in the TRL countdown, which is pretty interesting. It also determined radio programming, tour bookings, retail positioning, and this like validation system from TRL altered the industry economics of the time with how much they spent on videos, mobilizing street teams, voting campaigns. The other thing that was really influential about TRL that contributed to artists' disposability and kind of sucked for labels that invested a ton in these videos and impacted their longevity is that TRL had this like arbitrary 65-day maximum rule on the countdown that later was reduced to 50 and then I think 40, because I saw a stat that was like Ashley Tisdale's song was retired at 40 days at number 1 or something. And I'm like, which Ashley Tisdale song was number 1 for 40 days? Again, if I did research, I'd tell you. Also, this is legitimate research I was doing on my way home. But I can't go off on like every tangent, you know? Otherwise, this would turn into an Ashley Tisdale deep dive, which honestly, now that I'm saying that, does interest me. But as Sharpay once said, evaporate, tall person, because I'm getting distracted. But okay, what that's doing is creating turnover. So, like, you have to spend the most on these videos. You have to get artists that are, like, match the problematic 2000s vibe of, like, rail thin, super hot, sexy but not too much. You have to have a big budget music video. You have to be in cahoots with TRL. You have to spend all this money, like, kind of working this alleged democracy. But then TRL maxes you out 50 days on the countdown because they want to ensure playlist variety. And they were trying to create, like, artificial fan scarcity to drive engagement so people would like vote and watch, because at the time without the internet and like YouTube, where were you going to watch the video if it wasn't on the countdown? And what's so crazy is like now if artists are expected to do social media, like with the exception of paying influencers, PayPaling them apparently, it's like pretty low budget. But TRL campaigns back then consumed 20 to 30% of major label artist development budgets. But okay, here's where I get back to one-hit wonders. This investment created like terrible recoupment obligations for artists. Artists that weren't on TRL were quickly dropped from label rosters. This episode is also brought to you by Amika. Amika means friend, and they've been such a good friend of the podcast, taking a chance in doing this partnership. And beyond that, guys, they're going to sponsor Track 5, July 19th. Buy tickets at BeThereIn5.com/live-shows. And give you guys product. Like, I love a brand that wants to come support our Taylor Swift dance party. What a dream. And this summer, the rules of smoothing frizz are simple and finite. Lock in moisture and lock out frizz for a salon-perfect blowout with new Frizz-Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment and Forget Frizz Anti-Frizz Shampoo and Conditioner. The result, a glossy, sleek blowout like you just left the salon, no appointment required. And as heard on a previous episode, the testimonial from Kelly Kennedy, who has a very different hair texture than I do. We had many dramatic situations in childhood with Kelly's hair and her desire for it to be perfectly bump-free and smooth. Thus far, she is blown away by the Frizz-Me Not and Forget Frizz products because it smooths frizz for 72 hours and locks in 3.4x more hydration. The Frizz-Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment is the only product you need for hydrated, frizz-free hair days. Similarly, the shampoo and conditioner reduces frizz by up to 74% for up to 72 hours in high humidity, and seals in smooth hair in the shower for lasting results. If you are a grease ball like me, touch it up with some Perk Up dry shampoo, which I go through an alarming amount of. But go to Amika's website, take their quiz to figure out what hair type you have, and they'll match you to certain products. They have 11 collections to ensure there are options for all hair types, textures, and styles. And to pick up Amika's new line of smoothing anti-frizz products, go to loveamika.com/BeThereIn5. On that page, you'll also find all of my Amika faves like Perk Up Dry Shampoo, Soul Food Hair Mask, and the Super Fruit Star Lightweight Hairstyling Oil. For June, Amika is giving my listeners a one-time use code for 15% off your first order. Go to my page at loveamika.com/BeThereIn5 and use code BeThereIn5 at checkout. That's loveamika.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5 to get 15% off your first order. While we're here, Track 5 tickets went on sale. July 19th, Chop Shop. It's our residency. We do it every year. Literally, best night of my life. It's like a regular live show. I talk and do like kind of a podcasty fun like presentation thingy. Then we dance for 3 hours to Taylor Swift music. It's a very good time. You can put down your purse. Someone will give you a granola bar in the bathroom if you're feeling famished. The sisterhood is unmatched. Dear John and Exile really slap in a bar setting, and you're not going to hear it anywhere else. I'm not saying I did it first, but we started doing this right after the pandemic, before there were a bunch of Taylor Swift bar nights. And I do think what makes ours different is the people that all have a shared interest, the topics we talk about. I think people that meet there have a lot to talk about, and so many people come alone. And I ask you if you're alone so you can meet people while I'm on stage. And it's just a magical evening where the girls can just unapologetically celebrate a shared interest. And I bring that up because Mika is sponsoring it, and they will be there, and you'll go home with product. I mean, pretty exciting stuff. So go to BeThereIn5.com/live-shows if you want to come. BeThereIn5.com/live-shows. Okay, something else that's been confirmed by several artists is the role of September 11th in the timing of many of these 1, 2, 3 hit wonder artists' decline. And specifically, the type of artists that are in the inflatable chair lounging playlists that are solo female artists that kind of disappeared after a while. Like I said earlier, the teen pop bubble, it was actually a very short period of time, 99 to 2001. So when you think about how September 11th would have impacted a lot of these people, it makes a lot of sense why the lesser known acts could have fallen off due to disruptions. And, even just the phenomenon of leaning on familiarity for comfort. More established artists, sustain the changes, but the music industry actually changed quite a bit. I mean, music sales dropped by 5%. Their radio programming changes. Something like 165 songs were listed as lyrically questionable by Clear Channel and banned from the radio following 9/11. Creating a more conservative programming environment that, favored established, safer content, less edgy artists. And the songs that were thriving, especially Q3, Q4 of 2001, which, would have been a lot of those artists' continued heyday. It was Enrique Iglesias' Hero. Even Enya's pensive song Only Time was thriving. And yeah, there was kind of a shift away for a time from upbeat pop and more interested in reflective or patriotic or spiritual content. But beyond that, I think a handful of the artists Willa Ford, Blue Cantrell types got lost in the shuffle based on the timing alone. And I think because these young female pop acts were so manufactured, they didn't have these established fandoms. They relied on momentum. They relied on constant promotion. And there's an interesting Willa Ford of I Want to Be Bad fame Billboard interview where she said her second single was released on September 11th, 2001. And from there, her sophomore album never saw the light of day. This baby laughed. They asked her what her second record would have looked like if it had come out. She said it was practically done. It was raunchy, but there were some songs that were really cool. There was a song called Sexy Sex Obsessive. What is that title? Her songs being I Wanna Be Bad and Sexy Sex Obsessive. They're on it. They're almost so overtly pick me. It's refreshing. It's honestly giving your screen name's Roxy, Quicksilver Chica, and you never surfed, I love that energy. And then Dream making the band. Following September 11th, their third and fourth singles were canceled. One of their members has talked about how that was partly due to September 11th. 3LW's tour dates were canceled. Black, BLAQUE, their sophomore album, scheduled for December 2001, was dropped for unknown reasons. But in this similar time of kind of this era of late 2001 label purging. And incredibly important song to me, as many of you know, that was released on September 11th, 2001 in Sweden, was, of course, Play's Us Against the World, but their U.S. album was subsequently delayed until June 2002. I could do a whole episode on the Us Against the World video by Play. It's a little niche, but it is the perfect 2000s time capsule. It is at once pristinely formulaic to the time and comedically low budge, and with oversights not only the odd age gap where one of the members looks 10 and the others look 16, 17. And they have diversity by American Girl. which of course means, a blonde, brunette, and a redhead is how they show representation. And then October 2001, B Star Loved, B Star Witched received a phone call from their manager informing them that Sony had dropped them from the label and they were preparing to release their third album. They even had a single coming out called Where Will You Go? But where did that album go? Did I know that they had a third album, much less a second album, or honestly even a first full album? Did I just think they only had C'est La Vie and Roller Coaster in their repertoire? Yeah. But I would have loved for them to have the opportunity. Anyway, just a side note. But it's just like, God, how dare we kind of look down upon these people as failures who couldn't sustain their own success by putting out poor quality music. I think we need to remember the one-hit wonders didn't fail. They never got the chance to evolve past their first success before the machine discarded them. And while James Blunt, maybe his glass half full vibe is a bit different, because no offense to James, I'm not sure if he'd be plugged from obscurity to be like a hot solo act that was sure to sell albums. I think that people liked the song maybe, or people made fun of the song. I don't really remember why You're Beautiful took off. Maybe because his voice was so high. Flying high end. But I also think it's a reminder to never be like too scared to pivot. Because I think the assumption can be that these people never got back on their feet and are floundering. But let me tell you, there are plenty of one-hit wonders that are thriving. And proof that we shouldn't be afraid to pivot. Vitamin C of Graduation song fame, Friends Forever. Now a Netflix executive. Willa Ford, I Want to Be Bad. She is an interior decorating maven. That was on Forgettable, interior design show by Scott Disick. Flip it like Disick. Listen, Tracy Chapman's fast car is still earning her hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, 35 years later. And as it should, because she is a tremendously talented person. And that song is so good. Dexy's Midnight Runner is still touring, you guys. People sitting through all their songs just to listen to Come On Eileen? Lisa Loeb owns Lisa Loeb Eyewear Collection. How's that for staying around? I've done that twice this episode and I didn't like it. I did it with the Elmer's glue and sorry. Even Chumbawamba's still touring. I'm not going to say that you're never going to keep them down because that would be too obvious. But I think this can be with any job. I'll never forget when I learned that my childhood crush, Ches Starbuck, from the DCOM, the 13th year, Disney Channel original movies version of basically The Shape of Water, where on your 13th birthday, instead of turning into like a witch or a warlock or a werewolf, you turn into a fish and start to grow scales. Anyway, he gave up on acting, but don't worry about him. He's got a thriving cabinet business outside of Austin, Texas. If anybody needs some remodeling done by a former DCOM star. What a dream. Contractually, we're better off today. Compensation-wise, artists make a lot less money. It seems like they're relied upon to do a lot of their own marketing. And beyond that, it's not like it's more valued, though. I think it's still expendable in perhaps a more troubling way. And because I think consumers are like less attentive and less forgiving than they've ever been. I saw a stat that was interesting. TikTok's latest report shows artists can expect an 11% increase in on-demand music streaming over 3 days following a peak in TikTok total views. And I was kind of like, 3 days? Addison said something else in her Zane Lowe interview. She said, the thing about social media success is that if you're not updating it and feeding it, then people feel like it's not personal to be constantly feeling like I have to feed this beast, otherwise it won't feed me back. I've gotten to a point in my life where I've acknowledged that and she basically says like over the past 2 years, she's acknowledged that by treating herself like she's disposable and it's on to the next piece of content and what do I have to post tomorrow to keep people excited or interested. And it was day after day. She was posting 10 TikToks a day at one point and she was feeling like she couldn't stop because she was like, well, what if people forget about me? What if they don't care? What if they lose interest? And that's a really common thought to have these days because things are so rapid and things are coming out so fast. People move on to the next thing. And she realized that by doing that and playing into that, I'm telling people the work is disposable and that the work is not worth thinking about for longer than 10 seconds. And she's at a point where she thinks these songs have value, videos have value, and she knows they need to be digested over time. They need to be understood and rewatched. And I was like, I love that. And I love the confident delivery of the answer. And I thought that was really insightful because I actually, people are so mean to influencers and content creators. If that was my full-time job to be creating like content on TikTok or Reels, the constant anxiety I would feel about having something new to say, having constant metrics about like my likability on display nowadays with comments, it's brutal. Like I was saying earlier, it's like the what's next of it all, the one-upping yourself of it all. You can't even sit in satisfaction of something before it's on to the next thing. It's the opposite of a one-hit wonder. It's the pressure to feel like everything has to be a hit and the self-loathing when things don't turn out to be. But yeah, what she said about the fear of people forgetting about you, the fear of people losing interest, like that's very real. And like, that's why I took how many weeks off for maternity leave? I pre-recorded, I think 2 or 3 weeks of episodes. I still was kind of working during that time. I just, too much anxiety about like, people are going to lose interest. People are going to drop off.
But I mean, I can't overstate how unique it is that she meaningfully stepped away from the platform that made her famous. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. Even like the biggest of TikTok stars can go just as fast as they came. And think about like Bella Porch, a person with an insane number of followers, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have attention and engagement and leverage. She had to like really trust that she would make something that would re-engage people when she came back. When you really think about TikTok and what it asks of content creators and how it makes everyone a content creator, because if they post one random thought or a few here and there and early on it does well, kind of like a casino, it gives you just enough wins to keep you pulling the lever, but like the house always wins. Sorry, I'm talking quietly because it's getting late. And I think that the cruelest part of the democratization of fame and exposure on social media is that it feels like freedom because you're making the choice, you're in control. It's the opposite of the machine that once discarded artists and left these Y2K girls without agency. But like, is it the opposite of that? When you think of Instagram or TikTok as an outlet to make it in another medium, whether it's entertainment or publishing, acting, modeling, singing, etc., industries that were impossible to break through. On the one hand, like, part of that is so important and has led to so much high quality talent and representation that we would have otherwise never had access to. But the flip side of that is the platforms have convinced them to use that agency to replicate the same exploitative patterns that have always occurred, just internally. Be grateful you're here. We're going to make money off you, give you the least amount. Like Lance Bass making $35 a day during the peak of NSYNC. It's not dissimilar to be doing the most work to even get to a level where you can even make a small amount of money while the whole time people have been making money off of you. Or it's like working so hard on a single or a music video or an album only to have the label refuse to release it. I mean, now you're kind of so beholden to the algorithm. TikTok constantly changing what counts as engagement, like views, then likes, and shares. People quit their jobs based on their success from these algorithm-based platforms. And then these platforms can be like, well, we're not going to show your content to anybody, so therefore you can't make money. But we will show your content to people if you change everything about yourself, because right now we're prioritizing people using viral sounds, people using longer videos, shorter videos, using text, not using text, using more of our new features, engaging with the TikTok shop, or Instagram switching from chronological feeds to algorithm feeds, like killed organic reach overnight. YouTube moved goalposts from 10,000 views for monetization to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. You have to figure out how to play the game, but the second you do, the rules change. TikTok makes more ad revenue off of all of it. You could say that, like, the best part about social media is it allows me to be authentic in ways that you couldn't be in yesteryear. But, like, does it? I mean, in the same way artists used to be dropped for being, like, too difficult or unmarketable. Now what happens if you don't, like, play by the rules and you're, like, too honest or you say something edgy? Like, you get shadow banned. Like, you get reduced reach that doesn't fit platform performances. Like, you get shelved. It's kind of like, no, nobody's like necessarily controlling your image or your sound, your content, your relationships, your personal life, whatever. But like the way creators have to self-censor, I almost think the public is now this form of the, suits at the label that would make artists feel like shit. Like, you should be thankful we picked you. You should be so grateful we invested in making you a star. There's an interesting version of that happens now. And it's almost this energy of like, well, we follow you. We made you. We deserve all of you. And this entitlement to everything about them. This is the same conversation we have over and over with Meghan and Harry. Being public facing does not mean you forego a right to privacy. Those are two different things. You absolutely are allowed to control what you share. I mean, listen, I'm a nosy bitch. You can be interested in things you don't know about people's lives. I think it's fair to talk about it. But I don't think it's fair to be cruel, to cross boundaries. Like, I think it's crazy when public figures like elect to open up certain parts of their life and expect people to not have opinions about it, not talk about it. Like, the things you choose to open up about, I think there's a scope that's like, it is, yes, to be expected that there will be feedback, but there's a tendency to like blame the influencer for existing in a space, like suggest their participation means they're consenting to abuse. You knew what you were getting into, you know what you signed up for type vibe. As I've said a million times before, I think it's the new what was she wearing for the internet. I'm getting off on such a tangent here, but I think that her like pushing back on the beast that made her is like an important thing. And I think it's important to have more conversations about the parts of this type of job in this world that are undesirable. And again, I don't experience a lot of this because my life isn't the product. It's part of it, but not all of it. And you guys are so lovely. The part I do relate to that's newer to the online content creation space is this expectation of like required emotional labor from a creator. And I don't mean like consistent community members. I'll communicate with engaged best all the live long. But just like this expectation from like passersby, from randos coming into contact with your work and needing you to manage your audience's feelings about your choices. And people act like your existence is an imposition that you have to apologize for if you're doing or saying something that doesn't align with them. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, are we really better off with this being the vibe? And is this freedom? Or was there something to the insulation of traditional celebrity that allowed them to maintain a semblance of sanity, even if it made them delusional in a sense that they were out of touch? Anyway, my point is, I don't mean what Addison did is interesting in like the most vapid, like girl bossy way. Because, well, yes, I think she's talented and just a general good time gal. She's just like fun. I like fun people because I think I'm not a fun person. But also on a deeper level, I'm like, she's playing a very smart game. And I think this is a lesson for a lot of creators and aspiring creators to use the system to build your power, but then refuse to let the system use you. Like not only just not falling into the trap of feeding into the insistence for a constant stream of content, also to be working on something that you actually own. Yes, content creating is a real job, but I do think you need to diversify your income across platforms and across mediums. If your access to your audience is all through platforms you don't own, you need to have at least one. Or like the podcast is free because it's ad supported, but I also have Patreon that's listener supported. If there's a recession, if all else fails, if all my ads are pulled, I still have access to you through Patreon. Patreon goes, IDK. I'll email you voice notes. I'm like, don't worry, I will find you. This is Death Cab for Katie. I will follow you into the dark. But I think I'm like a doomsday influencer type because I've had a failed entrepreneurial venture. People that are pie in the sky only seen success online and everyone's loving them. I worry. You need options. You need options. I mean, obviously Addison wanted, like she's saying she wanted to be a star and be in music and whatever, and social media wasn't her thing. But like, I do think that's an important thing people need to keep in mind is what a grind this is. And by feeding into it, you are kind of devaluing your work in a strange way. And consider what your work could look like in another form with a longer life cycle on another platform, or how it could be repurposed as such. So the creative process isn't so thankless, cyclical, and like a gamble based on if TikTok decides to show you to people that day. TLDR, the way I talk about TikTok as a consumer is extraordinarily positive for the most part. But I guess what I'm revealing here is that when I look at TikTok from the perspective of the creator economy, I feel far less charitably. My mind thinks of everything like MLM leadership. I kind of think how everyone got so many followers in the beginning. TikTok kind of love bombed us with views and engagement, but then over time, very selectively, weirdly and confusingly, withheld them to keep us desperate and compliant. But then randomly, some people still take off the way that everybody used to in the old days, giving us a semblance of hope. But it's kind of like that pyramid where the success stories are becoming fewer and fewer, and the creators are getting greater and greater, and the saturation is just a little too much, and the odds are just so unlikely. I'll stop there, but, everything's a pyramid scheme is the real lesson here.
But anyways, I just on a personal note, I think this is really interesting. If you're interested in like the creator economy and this sort of internet career pivot, I just think these interviews are super fascinating. And
it also made me realize there's such a strategy to not doing a lot of media or interviews, because I realized I knew nothing about her. And then all of a sudden I'm hanging on to every word. I'm sure if you guys watch it at face value, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? Because she's just talking like a normal person. But I don't know why I found her content this week to be really interesting. Maybe I just needed something to latch onto. But I think the thing is, it's like, whether you're a one-hit wonder from yesteryear, an aspiring content creator, S Club 7, who gave their youth away for no payoff, only to have people like me make fun of their days at a motel pool in Miami, which, by the way, I enjoyed. It's like the common thread here is everyone's just trying to make it. I'm trying to make it.
they were just trying to get their break. Like Addison. That's why I'm trying to stick up for people like her now, because everyone's just trying to get theirs. It's hard. It's tough out there. I have a lot of empathy for people taken along for the ride and being told that this is their time, this is their moment, and especially being young and really maybe having no idea that they're just such a pawn in somebody else's game. This turned into like a unintentional three-pronged deep dive about Addison Rae, one-hit wonders, and TRL. But I guess I was just sitting here trying to think of a conclusion. And I think what just happened is I watched an interview with TikTok star turned pop star Addison Rae, followed by a brief interview of James Blunt. And that sent me on a Mr. Toad's wild ride through celebrating one-hit wonders, but then wondering why they were one-hit wonders and asking questions about the disposable nature of especially female pop artists back then, to wondering, like, are we better off today, or is music, perhaps more disposable today? There's way more opportunity, but an equal if not worse shelf life. The 3-minute mega budget TRL video that lasted for 50 days is now kind of the 15-second dance that goes viral for 3 days. But yeah, I think ultimately, in an analysis nobody asked for, TRL was kind of the original algorithm. It was one of the first systems that allegedly gave fans direct voting power over what became popular, while labels simultaneously gained the system, and the network orchestrated what we saw behind the scenes, which is kind of familiar sounding when you consider what goes on behind the scenes today, whether it's, manipulating streaming playlists, mobilizing fans on social media, paying influencers, doing contests, algorithmic music discovery. I don't know.
I have so many swirling thoughts, and I just think that even though I'm here providing commentary, I think that even Addison just saying she cares more about how a song feels than small production details or anything else. It does kind of hit different when you realize we are kind of drowning in analysis of everything and intellectualizing of everything. Even the attempt to intellectualize songs that are just meant to be remixed in a club. Sometimes a bop is just a bop, and maybe that's exactly what we need, and we don't need to overthink it.
But I don't even know what my ultimate conclusion is. Addison Rae's gaining enough power to make her music, James Blunt's gratitude, the one-hit wonder. I don't know. But I do think that my biggest takeaway with them is like they simply were casualties of a system that demanded constant reinvention, that set them up to fail in favor of short-term profit over long-term artistry. And even though they might not feel this way, I want to believe maybe they actually won by giving us pure joy before the machine moved on. And in our current era of endless commentary and analysis, there's something revolutionary about just letting music make you feel good. And the thing about a one-hit wonder is they all undoubtedly made us feel good if they had that kind of success, you know? But I'm trying to prioritize listening to other artists and making it more of an event. I think it just kind of connected me with like a lighter, younger version of myself. It's almost interesting. Like I used to listen to music to like daydream and imagine a future version of myself, you know, what I'd be doing, where I'd be working, hoping I'd be living somewhere interesting, doing something interesting, imagining, you know, my ex that would curse the day when I showed up somewhere looking smoking hot, hoping I'd fall in love with someone who understood me, that I wouldn't have to pose or perform for. Like I would just kind of imagine scenarios when I listened to songs and what they made me feel like. But now when I listen to music, these feelings connect me back to who I was when I was dreaming and make me happy all the same, even though back then I felt such a deficit longing for who I am now. And it's interesting to think about. I mean, obviously there's so much to look forward to in life. It's just starting, but I don't know why. Something about listening to, I mean, obviously old music makes me feel that way, but even listening to Addison Rae's songs, they're very like airy, breezy, windows down, but they kind of just, I don't know, not to get sappy, but sometimes when I listen to like really girly music, I think about how it makes me think of girlhood. And I think when you get into your 30s, whether it's deeper into your career or the existential questions surrounding the ifs of motherhood, much less the whens and hows of it happening, and the not really expecting the heartbreak that collides with the joy in many ways, and the need you feel to bury it because it makes people uncomfortable. And sometimes when I listen to music or I'm at a track 5, I have this overwhelming feeling of like, God, we're just girls. Like at one point we were just girls, and there's a lot of heaviness that comes with getting older. There's a lot of serious stuff that happens in life, and just that light feeling of like singing and dancing and not having a care in the world. I think there's something really like beautiful and important about music that does transport you for a moment to just like forget your responsibilities or forget what you're going through or forget that, you know, you're now responsible for other humans, and you know, you quite literally can't forget your responsibilities. And I'll never forget, like, when I had a track 5 in Salt Lake City, a town that has no reason to be nice to me, but the vets always are very kind to me there. I'll never forget a couple different groups of women, like, said something similar to me. And it was some form of, like, this is so much fun. We've never really gone out dancing. And it kind of knocked the wind out of me, like, what? But if you think about it, if, you know, when you're of age and you can go to third-party vendors, you're 18 or 21, like if you get married out of high school, if you have kids right when you're married, if your responsibilities are tremendous, if you're, you know, there's also probably a level of demonizing of like bars and nightclubs and things you don't want to participate in, though. According to Mom Talk, they can still have fun at nightclubs and bars and places where people dance in cages, and they're modernizing the Mormon church. But I don't know if at this time that was the case, and I don't know where these people stand. But regardless, it made sense that, like, yeah, your responsibilities are tremendous at a very young age. And yeah, maybe there weren't a lot of opportunities to just like go out and let your hair down and scream, sing with your friends to music you love at a location that wasn't one of your homes or church. And I don't know, and I guess I bring that up because I do kind of feel that way since being like in the motherhood era of my life, where I still feel like myself and I still have a lot of fun, but it is hard to feel the type of light where you just want to go out and dance, or you just want to listen to music just because, just to enjoy something. Like there's always something to do. There's always somewhere to be. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm saying is I like listening to music like Chapel or Addison's that like is so young and is so different and will be young girls' soundtrack. It's funny because I feel like adults are off. When I was growing up, we're like so annoyed by younger people and, you know, partying and without responsibility and just, you know, it's something that like adults kind of like roll their eyes at, you know, like irresponsible behavior. But I like feel the opposite. I'm like so happy for the girls. I like want them to live their best lives, not because one day it'll be over or just you wait, but because it really is a beautiful thing to have limited responsibilities. And there's so many ways the world wants you to have so much anxiety and pressure for who you'll be and what's ahead and what's next and, you know, settling down and tethering yourself to a partner or becoming a mom and defining yourself by who you are to other people. But it really is a beautiful and important time in your life to be able to just enjoy yourself with your girlfriends and to spend your time on your own terms. I don't know when it was, but I think everybody experiences this phenomenon where all of a sudden you reach an age where you start to feel weird about laying in bed all day on a Sunday. It happened for me at some point in my mid to late 20s. And I remember like at America's Next Top Model or like Rachel Zoe Project Marathon would be on. I mean, that was cause to clear my calendar. But then like suddenly it kind of shifts. And I don't know. I remember the time I felt very convicted, like, I deserve a tight 8 hours of watching a full ANTM season 4. I didn't even feel like pressure to have my nose in a book or to be doing something profound. My nose was to the grindstone. I mean, like, to me, I was working too hard. 925. Have you heard of it? 40 hours. Read a book. Listen to a Dolly Parton song. Full time, baby. Need a part-time bed rot. My weekends were filled with I can make your bed rock. I can make your bed rot. Rinse, repeat. Rock, rot. But even I, as a pretty lazy person, I can't quite pinpoint it, but at one point, the guilt, desire, shame, I don't know, surrounding like a need for productivity creeps in. Your Sundays change. And one day you put the remote away and you're like, shit, should I like clean out my closet? Should I, you know, contribute to the organizational industrial complex and get some aesthetically pleasing clear bins for dry goods? Are we really going through all those dry goods? I mean, like, if you're a doomsday prepper, that's chill if you have a family of 12, but like, are you guys honestly, like, how often are you using loose beans? I don't know. I don't fully understand why people want rogue oats without an expiration date. Just like freeballing it on your counter, but whatever floats your oats, I guess, as they say. You know what I mean? It's like, I think there's just like a funny urge you have where you all of a sudden like feel a little bit guilty about doing nothing. And like, I don't think any of us should feel bad if we're not productive, to be clear. I just mean like, there it is again, that funny feeling. Where is Bo Burnham, by the way? It's like hard to prevent at a point, and I salute those of you who don't have that in you yet. Anyway, what am I talking about? I think I was looking out the window and, I don't know, listening to Diet Pepsi and headphones on and Pink Pony Club. And I was like, God, I hope the girls are having fun and enjoying this music. And I'm glad there are young, fierce women taking risks, making art, not apologizing for like how they got famous, even if it was silly TikTok dances. They deserve to be taken seriously for what they produce and not how they got there. And whenever in the car, I was cruising through some of the 1 and 2 hit wonders. And I was like, I hope these people, despite only having one song, like, no, they're profoundly important to me. But yeah, if you're in that life phase where you're just girls, don't like take things too seriously or rush anything. Like I said at Freakle Economics, if you didn't listen to the episode, I don't blame you, the title is off-putting. Kind of related to the topic. I feel strongly about communicating to any younger listeners, like, the validity of your interests and the importance of having fun. And I feel strongly about cherishing the time in your life when like your friends are your core family, and they are throughout life, of course, but like when you live with them, it's a time in life when I
that's like when you're consistently like listening to music aloud in the car, when you're pre-gaming, when you're at bars with your girlfriends, when you're like laying out, whatever. And I just think about that time in my life and I feel excited for people living through that now. And I just want them to like not rush through it. I sincerely don't mean that when you get older, you have less fun. It's a different kind of fun. You kind of grow and evolve to like not want to do certain things anymore. But if you're lucky, you look back on the things you used to do longingly because you had a wonderful time. And you don't resent anything because you were able to like live your life. So please, for the love, don't rush to like get married. Don't rush to have kids. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your friends, listen to music, put the windows down, talk about Lord knows what till God knows when. And just be girls while you can. There's nothing like it. There's a lot going on in this episode. And ultimately, all I really wanted to communicate is just like enjoy stuff. Because I listen to other people's criticism and commentary and I'm like, golly. But then I mean, I do it too, obviously, but I kind of like want to try to provide commentary that also examines things maybe from a slightly different or empathetic angle. Even though it might not seem like people that are insanely popular, like Addison Rae or whatever, young person's coming out with stuff like is deserving of the attention or grace from us elder lovers of pop. I think it's good to try to embrace it because otherwise we're going to look like that narky parents group that just hates stuff and is out for a guaranteed bad time. What the hell is that group called? Anyway, you guys, I'll link my playlists in the show notes if anybody cares. Thanks for tuning in to Total Request 5, where similarly I push things onto you that you never asked for. Thank you for listening. Please, please, please share with a friend, rate and review 5 stars. Buy my book, One in a Millennial. And if you made it this far, thank you for the privilege of your time. And thank you for valuing my work. I'm Kate Kennedy, and this has been a Be There in 5 Deep Dive. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll let you know mine. I'll be there in 5. I swear.